A very good afternoon to you and a warm welcome to the marketplace. We're celebrating 25 years of joy with you. My name is Aboagye-Wiafe. Coming up in this afternoon's edition, Chamber of Petroleum Consumers threatens legal action against the National Petroleum Authority over introduction of a new levy on LPG. We'll be discussing the issue shortly. Also coming up, National Courier Association of Ghana appeals to security agencies implementing the lockdown directives to facilitate movement of its members to enhance food delivery during the lockdown period. And some banks are yet to comply fully with Bank of Ghana's call to observe hygiene protocols. We'll be telling you more about all these stories shortly in the marketplace. Don't go away. Many thanks for making a date with me on the marketplace. Welcome back. Now, the National Courier Association of Ghana is appealing to the security agencies implementing the lockdown directives to allow its members carry out their operations faster during the lockdown period. This follows complaints by some members of the association over how the process of delivering food to customers is delayed at various checkpoints. They say the situation is detrimental to restaurant businesses.
No intercity movement of vehicles and aircraft for private or commercial purposes for the areas of the restrictive measures, except for vehicles and aircrafts providing essential services and those carrying cargo. Riders of motorbikes are not allowed to carry any additional person. In any event, only persons involved in the food value chain can operate in the markets during this period.
Although eateries and restaurants have been exempted to operate during the 2-week lockdown period, they can do that under the condition they operate takeout services. In this regard, some restaurants depend heavily on services of dispatch riders to deliver food packages to customers. However, the operators say security checkpoints set up in various parts of the capital are posing a challenge to courier service providers. President of the association, Kwame Bekwin, explains that their services are essential to the survival of restaurants in this crucial period.
Looking at the President's directive in connection with e-commerce business and the full value chain services, we realized that courier companies can still operate because looking at the social distance and movement in connection with the partial lockdown, courier companies are supposed to operate during this period. And as if they are operating and we are facing challenges with the police, I mean, people have ordered food and it takes about an hour, 2 hours. The police will stop you. You have to wait with a lot of barriers and checkpoints. I mean, it becomes terrible. Restaurants are losing business because of all these delays.
The association says in this lockdown period, members are now doing 30 deliveries per each dispatch rider in a day as compared to the previous 10 deliveries. For Joy Business, Karen Dudu.
Now, as Ghana enters a 2-week lockdown as part of our efforts to help contain COVID-19, sister nation Nigeria has also taken a similar action. Parts of the country, including Lagos and Abuja, are also under a partial lockdown. Let's get to Nigeria now and speak with Assistant Managing Editor for Premium Times in Nigeria, Ini Ekot, for an update of the situation. Good afternoon, Ini.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ima.
All right, so tell us, which parts of Nigeria have been affected by the lockdown and how is it affecting livelihoods and businesses?
3 states currently. The lockdown is affecting Abuja, which is the federal capital. It's also affecting Lagos, and it's next door to Lagos, which is a state. Those are the 2 states that the president on Sunday imposed a lockdown. We also have several other states on lockdown led by the governors of those respective states. I'm sure, as you know, currently Nigeria has 170 cases of coronavirus and 2 and then discharge it. Effectively, the entire country is a lockdown.
All right, so in Ghana, some categories of workers have been exempted from this partial lockdown. Is it the same in Nigeria?
Yeah, sure. It is the same. Those carrying out essential activities like healthcare workers, uh, security operatives, media personnel, journalists, they are exempted, and people who are delivering other necessary services like those operating pharmacies, food stores, and the rest. They are also exempted from lockdown.
Right. So what is movement like? Are people able to go out, easily to get food?
As of now, the lockdown declared by the president is supposed to be like a total lockdown. People had a day on Monday to make some preparation. They are expected to remain indoors next week. So people are not expected to go out. And I can tell you the compliance level is very high. Uh, I think not necessarily because of the enforcement, a higher level of awareness involved. So people have chosen to stay indoors. But in case of emergency, people have the ability to go out.
Now, Amy, let's look at the impact of the COVID-19 as a whole on Nigeria's economy. How is it impacting so far? How has it impacted so far?
Yeah, it's huge. I would say it's huge. The implication, I start first on the business side. Businesses have been locked down uh, primarily because of two factors. People are not able to go out to open their stores. Even if they do, of course, there'll be no one to buy. And secondly, which is very important as well, the issue of supply chain. A lot of Nigerian businesses derive their supplies, their stock from countries heavily affected by the coronavirus. And number one amongst them is China. I can tell you the impact is very huge. That a little thing like drinking water, the sachet water that it's called pure water here, really affected because content that's the polythene that they use in wrapping the water is shipped in from China. So it's causing some kind of shortage uh, in respect of drinking water. So that's on the business side. Then the bigger perspective impact on the economy. Government is suffering significant revenue shortfall because of the impact on oil industry. There is no one to buy oil, and Nigeria depends very heavily on oil on its programs, its projects. So the budget benchmark here was set $57, but as we speak to you, uh, the oil price has gone down below $20 in some cases. So it's a real problem for the country in terms of being able to finance infrastructure projects, even being able to confront the threat of the coronavirus. So there have been responses, of course. The government has taken some measures, fiscal measures, and also monetary measures to respond. The Central Bank of Nigeria has injected excess to the economy, and the finance ministry has reduced the benchmark of oil. So it's a problem for now, but we are just looking at things unfold.
All right, so let's still stay within the petroleum industry, in the downstream sector, because the crude oil prices on the international market have gone down significantly. Has it translated into prices on the downstream sector?
Interestingly, the government has responded in, in respect of the downstream by using the of price of fuel, petrol here in Nigeria, from 145 lit 145 naira a liter. Is government used to initially 125 naira a liter,
Okay.
and so the price went down further by at 1 naira 50 kobo. That's down to 125 50 kobo a liter. So it's something that's interesting. It doesn't happen all the time. I don't know if you know, Nigeria spends a huge money to subsidize. So sometimes, regardless of the fluctuations in the international market, it does not really translate on downstream sector in the country. But this time there's a difference. So I can say that there is that translation from international cost to the downstream costs in Nigeria.
All right, so aside from what you mentioned earlier, what other measures has the government been putting in place to mitigate the impact of these challenges on the Nigerian economy?
The CBN, like I said, the central bank injected in excess of 1 trillion naira. As a matter of fact, some sources we are hearing 3 trillion. And there is some up to 50 billion naira released by the bank to aid small-scale farmers and small businesses to adapt to the challenge of pandemic. And there is also a moratorium on loans that were issued by the bank. So facilities, the farming sector, and other areas, the central bank has asked beneficiaries not to hastily pay up their expectations. They have up to like 3 months more to pay. So I think the government has responded fairly well by trying to provide palliative for the citizens. There is also direct payment to the most vulnerable. So yesterday, I understand that the government minister in charge of humanitarian affairs they were paying up to 20,000 to households that the government considers most vulnerable. Now, the challenge with that, as many Nigerians have expressed, is people believe that there are so many in need of this kind of assistance, they don't have a way of getting them. Basically, there is little data to really help the government direct this funding in the direction that is most needed. So it's not so clear yet how the government is taking the decision on knowing where to apply the funding. But I think there is effort in that.
All right, thank you very much, Eni Ekot, for that update. Eni Ekot is the assistant managing editor of Premium Times newspaper in Lagos, Nigeria. Back here in Ghana, we're going to cross over to Kumasi to find out whether oil marketing companies have reduced their prices in line with the current conditions under the first pricing window of April. And we have been joined by Sky Prince Appiah, who's been visiting some filling stations. And Prince is going to tell us, earlier we heard GOIL has reduced its fuel prices by 10%. We want to go to Prince Appiah now for updates. Prince, you're welcome to the market, please.
Thank you very much, Ima.
All right, so what can you tell us with regards to prices at the downstream?
Okay, so as you already said, GOIL has reduced its prices from 4.820 a liter to 4.320, both the diesel and super. Now, when we visited a total fuel research, the prices remain the same, 4.8 both diesel and super. For other places like Oil, and Pacific, all of them have prices remain the same. What the market are telling me is that they are waiting for directive from the authority. And for that has been the also.
All right, now, Prince, we cannot hear you too clearly, but what about the other stations that you visited?
So for the other representative from the constitution, I said earlier, some effective changes, and that has just happened today. It's big going on that we realized that the effective change reduced from 4.8 to a liter to 4.32 liter amount.
All right, many thanks for that update. Prince Appiah reaching us live from Kumasi. Let's still stay within the petroleum sector because the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, COPEC, is threatening legal action against the National Petroleum Authority, NPA, over introduction of a new levy on LPG. The authority, in a circular to industry players, directed them to start charging 13.5 pesos on each kilogram of LPG from April 1. The NPA is also asking oil marketing companies to increase levy on fuel marking margin from 3 to 4.5 pesos per litre on every product. COPEC says the current action of the regulator is disappointing. Executive Secretary of COPEC, Duncan Amwa, joins me by phone to get some reactions. Duncan, you're welcome to the market, please.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Good
All right, so some people believe that in times of persistent crude price crash, these are the innovative ways governments can use to mobilize revenue. Do you agree with that?
Emmanuel, we do not have an issue with government. We do not intend contesting if the right things are done. Unfortunately, the NPA cannot arrogate onto itself powers that the Act 691 that establishes the NPA doesn't give it. There's only one legal framework for slapping in it levies or taxes on Ghanaians. That framework is through the Finance Ministry to Parliament for deliberations and approval, and then it can come into effect. The NPA is not clothed with power to sit and unilaterally push levies or taxes on Ghanaians to start paying as they have done. That we intend to contest seriously.
What do you think about this CRM, that's the cylinder recirculation margin, coming at this time, even as we are yet to introduce this whole cylinder recirculation model? What do you think about this?
Emmanuel, it clearly defeats the whole purpose of the cylinder recirculation program. It cannot be said that even before you think of rolling out nationally, the monetary consideration is going ahead of everything. We would have wished to see how the CRM would even work across the country, how many of the bottling plants you've been able to erect, how far you are able to serve Ghanaians before you even talk about some of these issues as money. Unfortunately, it looks as though right from the outset, we are already defeating the whole essence of the cylinder recirculation by putting this money ahead of every other thing. It cannot be said, Emmanuel, that you are already for charging Ghanaians for a certain service that they are not using. You cannot charge people for a cylinder recovery margin at a time when they are still using their own bottles. No branded bottles are in the system to be given to Emmanuel if he went to the market today to refill his bottle. Yet you are charging them for a certain recovery. What are you taking those monies for, and for what services particularly? Again,
but the NPA has, Duncan, the NPA has done some pilots in this regard. Don't you think it's setting down these monies to be able to
Emmanuel,
this
pilots are essentially meant for specific duration or specific location. You cannot do a pilot in, say, a community and then slap levies nationally that everybody should pay for the pilot that you have not even concluded. That clearly is not only illegal, but it is ill thought through. We do think that the NPA would have allowed systems to work, particularly a certain framework that says that if you need to tax or levy every Ghanaian, there's only one way to go about it, that is to go through the Finance Ministry, to go through Parliament for the people's representatives to approve before you can start charging. Unfortunately, none of such has been done, and I will not be surprised that people in Parliament will take this up seriously to start summoning people to come and answer for why they are already charging you and I. The only bit I can also place on record now is that those buying LPG today and those who bought yesterday at these new charges should try and get some receipt, because the monies that the NPA has directed they should be charged are illegal monies, and in due time we would seek to enforce that those monies be refunded to them.
Now, finally, before you go, do you think that the revision of this marking margin on fuel is necessarily going to increase fuel prices at the pumps?
Clearly, the NPA cannot also be a referee in its own game. The fuel marking margin, the beneficiary institution is the NPA, which supervises the marking. We would even take issue with the whole marking arrangement, considering the fact that initially, before Ghana went into a deregulated program, the argument used to be that the government was subsidizing fuel for all of us. And so those who smuggled to Burkina and to the neighboring countries were clearly shortchanging all of us, for which reason we introduced the marking. Today, as we speak, there's full cost recovery. And so even if people were taking fuel across, it should presuppose that they have paid full taxes or tax compliance on that. And so the marking program itself comes into question as to whether it should be continued. For the MPA, that is a beneficiary institution to superintend over its own increases without recourse to Parliament. That also is quite worrying, and we do think that the NPA should not be allowed these things. Other than that, it cannot be wished that one day they wake up to say that the marking should also go up because they need more money. You put your hand in your pocket and there's no money, then you come to Ghanaians and take money because you superintend over that. That also, we need to delimit the NPA from exercising certain powers that the Constitution or the laws of the land does not mandate them to.
Thank you very much, Duncan Amwa, Executive Secretary of COPEG. Now, the need for the public to ensure good sanitation practices continue to be highlighted as we all fight to contain the COVID-19. Businesses have also been urged to provide hand-washing equipment and alcohol-based hand sanitizers to protect their clients. But are all businesses strictly adhering to this call? My colleague Sandra Sinamapenu has been finding out in the following report.
In an era where most people are being encouraged to practice social distancing and avoid crowds, and also opt for electronic modes of payments, how are the financial institutions protecting the customer, especially when the Bank of Ghana has directed all financial institutions in this country to practice or observe the hygiene protocols at their automated teller machines? We are in town to find out how these institutions are actually protecting the customer. First stop was the Fidelity Kukumlimli branch. Although the bank was closed to customers, its 24-hour service automated teller machine was without the basic hygiene protocols in the fight against coronavirus. Neither water nor sanitizers were provided. The situation was seen with Cal Bank's ATM at the same location. Our next point of call was Newtown. Here too, the Abbey National Savings and Loans ATM was without a hand-washing bowl and alcohol-based sanitizer. The Greek Development Bank also at Newtown, however, provided hand-washing bowls but no sanitizer close to its ATM. The story was, however, different at the Nima branch of Access Bank. Customers here were made to wash their hands under running water and also sanitize their hands before entering the banking hall.
I know what's going on in the country and even the town, because they say it's already given from above and the structure is already there. So we just need to abide with it and then cooperate with the rules and regulations governing the country. So I don't even have a problem washing and even having a feeling of the sanitizer.
We are being asked to practice social distancing. Why don't you use the electronic payments and you're rather coming to the bank?
Oh yeah, right now I was trying to come and save some money inside my account because I'm having a problem and there wasn't any mobile money.
Several other banks visited on the Ring Road except ABSA had nothing of interest in the fight against the global pandemic COVID-19. Some customers were concerned about their health, carried their hand sanitizers around.
Because when we came, we're supposed to have all those things here, but there are none of this is here, and I have to withdraw money from here and go to the port and pay duty. But assuming if I don't have my own sanitizer, I have to go back and leave this in because of the due to this sickness that is in the town all over. So we were expecting all those things here, but these things are not here.
In a statement dated March 16, the regulator, the Bank of Ghana, directed all banks, savings and loans companies, financial houses, microfinance institutions, rural banks and community banks, as well as foreign exchange bureaus to ensure the following. 1. Activate their business continuity and disaster recovery plan proportionate to the current circumstances and to review these plans as the situation changes. 2. Abide by the public notices and advisory issued by the Government of Ghana, the Ministry of Health, the Ghana Health Service and other relevant authorities in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic. BOG also encouraged these institutions to enhance protective and safety precautions for all staff. 1. To ensure that banking halls, automated teller machines, that's the ATMs, counting machines and other relevant equipment are sanitized on a regular basis, as well as provide hand sanitizing dispensers at entry and other vantage points. Despite these directives, it appears little is being done to protect the customer in an era where most clients are relying on ATMs and other electronic payment platforms in a bid to avoid crowds. For now, the situation at most ATMs is nothing to write home about, and it remains to be seen what the central bank and other relevant authorities will do in these crucial times to protect the public against the deadly coronavirus pandemic.
And that'll be it for the marketplace today. Many thanks for your company. My name is Aboagye-Wiafe. Have a good afternoon.